Hey, don't look now, but Nate Ament is starting to figure it out, and boy, the SEC should be on notice.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Happy Friday morning, and welcome into Locked On Vols. I am Eric Cain, a member of the VolQuest.com team here in town covering your Tennessee Volunteers. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day, the number one sports podcasting network available. Today's episode is presented by the great people over at FanDuel Sportsbook. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. If you're a new customer, bet just $5, get $200 in bonus bets. It's if you win. Go check out the great people over at FanDuel today, this weekend, and of course next weekend as well. Doing something a little bit different today. Going to be hoops heavy on this Friday, okay? This show's going to be hoops heavy. Going to talk about Nate Ament, another great performance. Georgia win in overtime. What he did, what Tennessee did dominating the boards. Rick Barnes picks up a signature win, a milestone win, if you will. Caleb Jarreau is going to come on, talk about the men and the Lady Vols. Hot start in SEC play are the Lady Vols. And then, of course, you got Gordy coming up. He did a sit-down chat with Phillip Fulmer last week, and I want to play parts of that conversation right here on Locked On Vols from Locked On SEC's Gordy. All that and more here on this show. Later this afternoon, going to catch up with Zach Blackerby, do a little Locked On crossover, getting you set for Tennessee and Auburn tomorrow with Stephen Pearl. Should be pretty exciting in that regard. All that and more coming up here today on Locked On Vols. And let's jump down into it, man. Hey, Nate Ament, he's starting to figure it out. We talked a little bit about Nate Ament a lot here on the show, and earlier in the season it was more frustration, fans not quite understanding. You have all this hype, so overrated, he's not producing. And hey, he's still making fresh mistakes. The other night against Georgia, he still had a inbound violation, right? I mean, it was the whole, since it was a dead ball turnover or whatever, you can't move on the baseline when you're inbounding the ball, because if you make the basket, you can move, but if anything but that, you can't move. And that's just a freshman mistake. And he's had a couple of 5-second violations, when trying to inbound the basketball. That's been a big part of his game that he's trying to grow. But on the court, he was slow in the first half the other night, but goodness gracious, finishing with 19 points yet again. His last 5 games against some really solid competition in Florida, Texas A&M, Kentucky, Alabama, and Georgia. He's averaging 21 points, 5.8 rebounds per game, and he's shooting 39% from three-point land. Again, a slow first half the other night, came on strong. I believe it was 17 points in the second half, finishing with 19 points in the game, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 of 5 from 3, 7 of 18 from the field. And what I like the best about that is he's shooting at a high volume. There was a game during that stretch, I think it was, it wasn't Texas A&M, I think it was, might have been Texas, I don't know which one it was during that stretch. Maybe it was against Kentucky, I don't know. One of those games where he didn't shoot the ball much. Now, he had a lot of points because he went to the free throw line a lot, but he didn't shoot the ball enough. And Rick Barnes like, hey, you got to shoot the basketball, man. I mean, you're here for a reason. Shoot the basketball. And you look at that box score from the other night, and that's 18 shot attempts, 19 shot attempts for Ja'Kobi Gillespie. The next closest for those guys were JP Estrella, who had a monstrous game for Tennessee at Georgia when he had 12 shot attempts. So Nate Ament starting to come around a little bit. I mean, I like the fact that he's taken over. I like the fact that he's seeking out contact. He's driving to the blocks. I like that he's calling for the basketball. He's setting up isolation, plays for him to run on the half court. He's looking like what we expected him to look like, and that's the reason why he's going to be a first-round draft pick. And, hey, if he keeps this up, he'll probably work himself back into the lottery come this summer for the NBA draft. I mean, Rick Barnes sung his praises after the game against Georgia. He said, I said it might take him till the middle of January to figure this things out, but he's going to figure it out. And that's what he said after the game, recalling one of his earlier conversations from earlier in the season. Told the media, quote, I told you guys, I think he's been great all year. Everybody, I don't know what they expected, but for a guy to be learning to play on the perimeter, both offensively and defensively, it's a hard thing to do coming into this level, knowing that you have a huge target on your back every single night with someone trying to go after you. But Nate, he is really starting to see the game, end quote. He's been really good. He goes on to say again the other night, quote, he said, listen here, what are we doing? Listen, here's what we're doing. And we haven't had that. So he's starting to see the game, when we run some actions, he's starting to not just play out of it, but know what he needs to do. Again, he's been terrific. He's starting to understand the whole thing the more and more he plays. And that's what I want to see. You saw a video of him circulating around social media the other night, walking off the court in Athens. He was fired up. He was high-fiving Tennessee fans. You love to see that fire. Again, Nate Ament the last 5 games against Florida, Texas A&M, Kentucky, Alabama, and Georgia. He is averaging 21 points per game, 5.8 rebounds per game, and 39% from 3. The former McDonald's All-American is playing just like it, a former McDonald's All-American. Rick Barnes also locked up career win number 850 during that win for Tennessee, a milestone win for Rick Barnes, and he's already second all-time in Tennessee wins. Of course, that now puts him 32 behind Ray Mears. I believe Ray Mears has 278 wins at Tennessee. Rick Barnes now has 246 wins at Tennessee, and man, it's been a fun ride. 10 seasons here at Tennessee, and I'll never forget. I don't think I watched it in real time, but I remember going back and watching it after Tennessee hired him. His goodbye press conference at Texas when they essentially just ushered him out of town. And then somebody asked the question, like, what's next for you? Do you think you're going to coach again? He's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to coach again. And he made it seem like, hey, I know exactly where I'm going, and it's going to be quickly. And I believe Tennessee picked him up from that press conference, took him back to Knoxville and finalized things and got that thing done. And the rest has been history. I don't even of course, such a big part of Rick Barnes' coaching tenure was in Austin with the Longhorns, but I don't even think of Rick Barnes in that realm anymore. Obviously, I cover Tennessee. I think Rick Barnes at Tennessee. I mean, way back when, Providence, Clemson, played at Lenore-Ryan, obviously. Shout out Carson Newman from Hickory, right? Lenore-Ryan. But I think he's going to be. I think he's going to be associated with Tennessee's shade of orange more than the Longhorn shade of orange. I know he made a Final Four with Texas, but he's made a couple of Elite Eights at Tennessee, gotten really, really close. He's done some great things here at Tennessee. Career win number 850 for the Deacon, putting him 32 wins behind Ray Mears at Tennessee, 246 win at the University of Tennessee. You go back to looking at that game from the other night. JP Estrella, boy, was he fantastic. Had some monster rebounds at the end of that game against Alabama over the weekend, right? And one of those was a low IQ play because he tried to go back up instead of kicking it out and just taking 20 or so more seconds off the shot clock there at the end. But he had some massive rebounds there at the end of that Alabama game. Played 31 minutes the other night, 8 of 12 from the field, 17 points, 9 rebounds. JP Estrella, this is the JP Estrella that everybody thought they were going to get on a consistent basis. Now, he's still got to put some things together, right? He's going to come up short on the defensive end. He's never going to be that rim protector. But what his potential brings offensively, both as a distributor and as a guy that can just go hunt down a basket, I think it speaks volumes. And also, he's rebounding as well, 9 rebounds. Great to see Felix Okpara get 11 rebounds the other day. Bishop Boswell, just a casual double-double. Again, Bishop Boswell's a really important piece to the Tennessee team, both offensively and defensively. And he's never going to shoot a ton, but he's going to hunt down some shots. He finished with 13 the other night. He's been really good. I cannot believe Georgia called a timeout with 15 seconds left, down 3, and they settle for a layup with 0.6 left on the clock. I mean, what are you doing? Tennessee's going to give you a 2. Tennessee's absolutely going to give you a 2, especially with 5 seconds left in the game. They're going to give you a 2. Tennessee just backed away. But no sense in getting near him to try to even foul to convert a 3-point play whatsoever. They obviously didn't get a good look at 3. But if you're going to go for a 2, go get it now. What a disastrous coaching effort there at the very end by Mike White. And Tennessee, of course, had some blunders as well. Ja'Kobi Gillespie, who's been so good for the Volunteers, coming by way of Maryland, formerly of Belmont, of course, from Greenville, Tennessee. What up, Green Devils? Ja'Kobi Gillespie has been awesome. He's considered one of the best players in the SEC this year. His scoring rate has been monumental for Tennessee. Okay, he is option 1A or he's option 1B to the 1A for Nate Ament. He's been phenomenal. But his late game struggles, man, I don't know what to make of it. The turnovers, silly decisions to go and shoot instead of taking time off the shot clock, silly fouls. His sloppiness in the last minute or so of games really hurt you. We all remember the horrific turnover against Kentucky a couple weeks ago. I'll take the 39 minutes of solid Ja'Kobi Gillespie over just 1 minute of bad play, but you got to tighten some things up there in the back end, in my opinion, and crunch time for Tennessee. One other note about that win over Georgia. Tennessee should have just blown the doors off this game. You know why? Because they out-rebounded them 52-27 and 26 offensive rebounds. 26 offensive rebound, outscored Georgia 24-4 in second chance opportunities because of those 26 offensive rebounds. It's was a really, really good game for Tennessee. Nate Ament continuing his hot streak, and you need this momentum rolling into Auburn. What a showcase it's going to be at Food City Center coming up tomorrow. And, of course, we'll talk more about that game with Zach Blackerby, a little Locked On crossover with Locked On Auburn. That is coming up later today. At least that is the plan. When we come back, Caleb Jarreau from the Daily Times is going to talk about Tennessee basketball, talk about the Lady Vols, and don't forget, you'll hear from Phillip Fulmer. Chris Gordy caught up with him last week, an extended conversation, some really, really good stuff coming up later on in the show with Tennessee legend Phillip Fulmer. That's coming up next, or coming up later. We got Caleb Jarreau next, right here on your Friday morning. Locked On Vols. Stay tuned. It's last call for football on FanDuel. One final Saturday, one last kickoff, a chance to get in on all the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, where stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels just so much bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and makes the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, just bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Just bet $5, get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, season's over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com today to get started. That is FanDuel.com today to go ahead and get started. Hey, everybody. Really appreciate you guys starting your Friday morning here with us on Locked On Vols. If you haven't done already, check out the Everydayer Club. Just $5 a month. You get an audio version of the show that's ad-free. That's exciting. You get access to the Locked On merch store where you can purchase some Locked On gear. It's really, really cool stuff. I can take that personally because I wear a ton of it every single day. And you can also chat in the Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which we got a group chat going on in there. Was in there hanging out during the game the other night. And really just a place just to get more Locked On Vols content. So $5 a month, go check it out. That is lockedonvols.supercast.com, lockedonvols.supercast.com. And now to talk a little Lady Vols and some men basketball as well. We'll continue this conversation with the big game against Auburn coming up. We'll welcome on from the Daily Times, Caleb Jarreau. Big game for Tennessee the other night against Georgia. Tennessee just found a way. It was gross in the first half, came back in the second half, played more efficient offensively. They bullied Georgia on the board, specifically the offensive boards, a lot of second chance opportunities. That was all great to see, but Tennessee, again, in the end, found a way to get it done. It wasn't pretty. There was sloppiness on Tennessee's side. I mean, I don't know what Georgia was doing there on that last possession there for them, but Tennessee found a way to win, just like it did against Alabama and just like it did against Texas A&M a couple weeks ago. Like, that's good to see as we make our way through January.
Yeah, I think, honestly, it's almost a red flag when you out-rebound a team 52-27. You expect to pull away with that one, but Tennessee did, and they shot, 43.7% from the field. So Georgia was 10% better than them from the field. But Tennessee got 10 more shots, so it evened out in the end. And like you said, I'm sure everybody took a sigh of relief when the Georgia player just took the layup with 0.6 seconds left. But it was really a win that, we've kind of come to. It reminded me a lot of that Alabama win, truthfully, Caner, because you had Nate Ament kind of step up late in the game and get some big buckets. And then JP Estrella with another huge sequence to start halftime, starting with the 4 points that kind of, it felt like to me stabilized everything for Tennessee because they had a 6-point lead and let it run out, and Georgia hits that kind of buzzer beater. I know Ja'Kobi got that look at the end, but with JP hitting those 4 points, it kind of calmed everything down for Tennessee in overtime, and they ended up, leaving Athens with a win. So it is a good win, another road win. And honestly, when you look at Tennessee's schedule at this point, kind of seeing the way the SEC shakes out, there's a good argument to say they're past the hardest part of their schedule, and they're sitting at 4-3 in conference play, and you should be 5-2 in conference play if you don't blow a 17-point lead at home to Kentucky. So it's a good win, solid win, and it's good to see Tennessee build on what happened last game, because we saw a ton in the non-conference where, you have a good win against Houston, and then the next game it looks like a completely different basketball team.
Again, I'm going to try to do another show later today, specifically on the Auburn game. But tell us about Auburn. I know it's a quick turnaround for you. Time of this recording, you probably just got back from Athens, and you're looking ahead. Given that game got pushed later in the week, but tell me a little bit about Auburn. We know how Bruce Pearl coached Auburn. Steven's going to try to just carry that on. But who are some players to look out for? What has Auburn done? They've had some big wins recently. They've also had some tough losses.
Yeah, it's kind of the story of the SEC with Auburn, I think, is everybody's kind of beating everybody at this point. You don't see, like last year and many years previously, you could almost bet the house on Kentucky and Florida in the preseason, leaving the SEC and beating the teams. But now you don't see that. And I think Auburn's kind of in that mix. Like you said, they got that, signature win for Stephen Pearl, is what the Associated Press called it, when they beat Florida in Gainesville, 76-67. But then there's some tough losses in there. You lost to a Missouri team that's probably going to fire its coach at the end of the year. You lost to Texas A&M. They lost to Georgia in overtime. And then there's other good wins in there too. Like you beat Arkansas, really close game against South Carolina, another team that's probably going to fire its coach in the offseason. So it's a questionable group. But honestly, one thing I'm curious to see too is what's the reaction like when Stephen Pearl comes home, because Bruce Pearl was always mixed. I know people my age kind of don't like him because they only know Auburn Bruce Pearl, but everybody near elderly like you, I'm sure appreciated appreciated Bruce and what he did at Tennessee. So it'll be an interesting game too. I think Keyshawn Hall is playing good basketball. He's over 20 points a game. Tahid Pettiford, who everybody always makes fun of for being older than everybody in college basketball. He's at 13.5 points a game. So it'll be an interesting game. Elijah Freeman is a name that Tennessee people will remember from the transfer portal that ended up at Auburn. He's right around that 10-point-a-game mark. So I'll be curious to see what Tennessee looks like. I think returning home will help. Auburn's obviously going to be a good offensive team. They're shooting about 47% from the field. But I'm curious to see what Tennessee looks like against an Auburn team. To your point, like, we don't know what they're going to look like either. They've had games where they beat Florida, and they've had games where they come out flat. And I think that's just the story of the SEC this year, which I think at this point in the season, you can say is the deepest conference, probably top to bottom in men's basketball. But I don't think that the top half of the conference is where it usually is.
All you South Atlantic Conference fans know that name, Elijah Freeman, LMU.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Your rival.
Yeah, big rival to Carson Newman. I mean, there was some good basketball, like, with the Slay years, some moments there. And they had their moments in the 90s. But, I mean, like, for people my age, the elderly, right? I mean, Tennessee basketball is fun. Bruce made it so much fun. They were good, obviously, and everything that he did on and off the court was just a blast. So people in my demo, a lot of them love Bruce, and I understand that. But I don't think, even though Steven played on a couple of those teams, the things that Steven said since leaving Tennessee, I don't think anybody likes Steven. So I think the reception is going to be not a very nice one. I think it's going to be hostile, and it should be for a big-time game on your home court. Shifting gears, tell me about the Lady Vols, man. I mean, their impressive start to SEC play. I know you and I talked off air. Like, a part of that is just the way the schedule's laid out. Like, it was almost a gimme to start 3-0, 4-0, or whatever. They got some luck due to weather, avoiding a pretty good team. They beat up on Kentucky, an injury-filled team. But don't try not to take anything away from this Lady Vols club. They played some really good basketball, and that's good because we know that there was kind of a circus to begin the season with players in and out of the lineup, and of course dismissing the best player on your team.
Yeah, and I think even though they were given probably 4-0, I would say, when the conference schedule came out, they've played a lot of bad teams this year in the non-con and looked horrible. They didn't look bad in any of those games. Mississippi State, when they went on the road and beat them, that was a good win, and they shot over 50% from the field. That's offense you didn't see at all in the non-con. So I think you're starting to see this team click. Obviously, by the time this comes out, they'll have another game under their belt, which should be another conference win, which will keep them undefeated. So you'd be looking at 7-0 if they beat Mississippi State, 6-1 otherwise. But that's still a great start when you look at this schedule. And it's really the freshmen, I would say, Cain, are coming together. You've got Mia Pauldo, who, while she's maybe not being promoted as such, is putting together a very good SEC Freshman of the Year campaign. She's averaging, 16 points a game, 2.8 rebounds a game, a little over 2 assists per game. She's got 6 steals in conference play. And compared to the other freshmen in the league, she's really driving this Tennessee team, all while shooting 42% from the field and 30% from three. So one of the most efficient freshmen in the league. And then you still have Talaysia Cooper behind her with 14.5 points per game. And honestly, I think it's come down to this freshman class as a whole. You look at Jada Civil, she does a lot more than score. She's at 6.2 points per game, but she's on the boards. And that was a problem in the non-con, is this team wouldn't rebound. So you've got freshmen crashing the boards like Jada Civil, Denia Prawl, obviously Mia Pauldo scoring the ball and finally growing into that 3-point threat you need her to be. And then you've got role players like Alyssa Latham who are playing their role at a high enough level. You know, she was one of the main reasons they won at Alabama for their first ranked win of the season, is because she's cutting off the ball. And you kind of see this team almost learning basketball as a whole, because there was not a lot of off-ball movement in the non-con. And then you look at February and you start to realize why it's so important that this team has started undefeated in SEC play. Because, you know, Kim Caldwell kind of talked around it before the SEC slate, but they really needed to stack these wins at the beginning. Because now when you look at February, it starts on February 1st. You go to number 1 UConn. That's not going to be an easy game. Yeah. Then you have South Carolina, who's number 3 on the schedule. Vanderbilt's number 5. You play them. Texas is number 4. You play them. Oklahoma's still on the schedule. You have to go to Norman. They're number 10 right now. You got to go to Baton Rouge. LSU's number 6. And then you still have to go to Georgia, who's kind of teetering on a ranked team right now and playing some of their best basketball in recent history. So, you know, I think with the way this team is playing right now, they've really raised their ceiling for March. And more importantly, in the women's game, they're kind of playing their way into a top 16 seed, which might allow them to start at home. But it's really just come down to the freshmen. And, you know, we'll learn a lot about this team in February, and I think the record will look a lot different. But I don't think that'll necessarily be an indictment on Tennessee. But what you're seeing right now is these freshmen coming along. And can you just imagine if they retain this freshman class for, you know, 2 to 3, 4 years down the road and keep this group together? Kim Caldwell has a solid foundation to rebuild this program on.
It'll be dynamic. It's looking pretty dynamic right now. It could be even better in the years to come. That is the Tennessee Lady Vols. That is Caleb Jarreau from the Maryville Daily Times. What do you got coming up in the next couple of days that we can be on the lookout for?
Yeah, so we've got obviously the women's game. I'll have coverage of that by the time this comes out. And then pre-snow, we've got a Scott's doubleheader. Maryville College is hosting LaGrange on Friday. Both of those teams are playing. You know, the men's team, I'm sure people around here have heard of what Coach Placeris is doing with them, but the women's team now has come along with some big transfer portal pickups, and they're, you know, leading the CCS. So as a guy who went to a small college, I'm sure you can appreciate the Division II, Division III hoops, and then Saturday will be more Tennessee stuff. So it'll be a mix of it all.
You know, it's funny. On this episode specifically, over the course of 3 segments, there's been obviously a Carson Newman mention. I'll try to work the Eagles in there whenever I can. I mentioned Hickory, North Carolina, and Lenore Ron for Rick Barnes. Mentioned LMU for Elijah Freeman, and then you just had a little Maryville Scots, Fighting Scots drop in there from the Division III rank. So
hey, for all the people who complain that college sports are dead, Division II and Division III seem to do pretty well.
That they do. All right, Caleb, as always, man, thanks so much.
Awesome, appreciate it.
This is Mazda's moving the game forward for those who show more than just the score on the television screen. You go back, and I talked about it a little bit in segment number 1. We're not going to talk Nate Ament. We're not going to talk about Ja'Kobi Gillespie. Let's go and talk about JP Estrella. I mean, the guy just continues to find rhythm on the offensive end. If he continues to get extended minutes, he's never going to be that rim protector that Rick Barnes wants, but he brings so much more to the game. And with Jalen Carey just kind of going through it a little bit, and obviously Kate Phillips is not a factor and hadn't been a factor for quite some time, you need some stability and an offensive threat, especially, again, with Carey not playing well on the offensive end. That's what JP Estrella can give you. Again, 8 of 12 the other night, 17 points, 9 rebounds, a rebound shy of a double-double. He can even step back and shoot a 3. He had a 3-point shot attempt, but uncontested at the top of the key. I'd say green light all day there for JP. That was great to see, and hopefully that can continue on as he continues to get more and more consistent high-volume minutes. That is JP Estrella. It reminds everybody what it takes to raise that bar, the extra work off the court, dialing in every detail, giving it that extra fire, the grit, the never I quit mentality. Mazda, they put the same passion into every model. Highlights make the reel. What it took to get there makes it count. There's more to Mazda because there's more to you. Mazda, where you can move and you can be moved. Final segment here on a Friday morning show. Chris Gordy chatted with Tennessee football legend Phillip Fulmer last week. Went over an array of topics. College football nowadays, defense is pretty much living in nickel. Josh Heupel, how he's done at Tennessee, the hiring of Jim Knowles, the 9-game SEC schedule coming to Tennessee, the 98 season, some of his favorite moments as Tennessee's head coach. Obviously, that 98 season is going to get a shout out a couple times in there. Jason Witten at Oklahoma. Loads and loads of stuff is uncovered with Chris Gordy's his chat with Phillip Fulmer. So let me step out of the way. Give this a listen. Check it all out. This is Locked On SEC's Chris Gordy with Phillip Fulmer.
Does it surprise you how much the game has changed now when you talk about name, image, and likeness, revenue share? I mean, you think back to your days, did you ever think the school would literally be writing a check in public legally to a player?
No, it's just impossible for me to get my arms around, what we had as an amateur athletics and what in a short period of time it changed completely. And I don't think it's sustainable. I'm excited that the players are being able to get paid and some of that, but it's way out of whack right now. And the wrong people are making the decisions for the kids. And the agents that are charging them too much and taking advantage of them, and those kinds of things. And that's where we've got to start, is to get them cleared. These kids are transferring with hours, and then they lose those hours, and they try to graduate, and then all of a sudden they're not playing pro football, or they spend all the money that they made, or a lot of it, and they're out done. And it's really sad how this system is taking advantage of the kids.
Yeah, when you see the graphic of this kid's transferring and it's like 6 school logos, you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, how many hours does he have to graduate? Right. Used to, they held you accountable, and I thought that was a great thing with APR. You had to get so many hours so that you could be moving toward graduation, or you lost scholarships.
Yeah. Who's
taking care of the kids now? Mm-hmm. Right? Can't be the coach because he's hand-tied. His hands are tied, and it's somebody outside of the coach, and that's not a good thing always.
I do have a football question for you. How crazy is it when you look at defenses and see they're basically living in nickel coverage? It feels like more now than ever. Is that crazy to you, seeing that?
No, well, we did nickel packages and all those kinds of things by down and distance, but no, now it's a game within a game. With that extra person, where's he going to come from? And all the zone blitzes and still those are still intact. But quarterbacks and systems have learned how to attack it better, and it's just a chess game going on all the time in the game.
Did want to ask, what do you make of the Vols offseason so far? I mean, it seems to be a home run hire, and Jim Knowles coming in as the DC.
I think so. He worked for my good friend David Cutcliffe at Ole Miss and Duke both, and David speaks volumes about him, as everybody else that he's worked for. So I think he's got his staff in place on the defense, and he's now, I guess, the portal the next few days is going to be important. And again, that's hard to even say that.
Well, I like he's bringing a bunch of guys from Penn State with him. So it's guys who know the system. They know
the system, and they know him, and he knows them too. So absolutely.
From your viewpoint, how would you assess how Coach Heupel is doing so far?
I think he's done a really good job. We had that first year that he won 11, and that kind of set the standard as quickly, and he didn't get to work through it, and tough year this year with injuries, an awful tough year, but he's done we played in the playoff last year. We expect to, in the coming years this year, and I know he's working really hard to get it. I get to go to practice quite often, and they're very organized, and they go about their business, and they got some great looking young men, and it's just a matter of putting the pieces together. It's
interesting too, we've seen so many teams go and get a quarterback from the portal. Obviously Joey Aguilar last year, I think, surprised all of us in how good he was, but it's that battle of, okay, you put in all these recruiting chips on a George McIntyre and a Faison Brandon, and do you go young and develop that guy? Do you go get a proven? It's a hard battle these days.
It is a hard battle, and they've got to allow the guys to compete, because you're a portal guy doesn't mean that you're going to be the starter. I would assume, you wouldn't take him unless you thought he could be. But I think those kids are. He's got some good people in the room right now.
I saw they just got the highest paid strength coach in the country, and Derek Owings coming over from Indiana. I look at it, coach, and go, if he can do what he did in the trenches with those guys in Indiana the last 2 years, I mean, that's incredible.
I go back to my first hire as a head coach was John Stuckey, that I brought in from Arkansas, and I mean they're with them all the time. They know the kids inside and out, and they certainly affect the toughness, the maturity, the culture, of your football team, and that's a great hire by Coach Heupel.
Do you like the SEC moving to a 9-game conference schedule? Seems like more pitfalls.
Now, I was also in those rooms, and to ask us to play the 9 games is really hard. But that's the standard now. That's part of the television package, and everybody's competing with each other. So if they have to do it, and I guess we have to do it as well.
I have some buddies who are big Tennessee fans. They sent me some questions, so I'll figure I'd throw these at you.
Okay.
August 1998, you and Cutcliffe getting ready for the season. What do you make of the offense? Are you going, man, something's wrong with the offense, or my God, this defense is going to be spectacular?
No, I know. I'm telling you, we could not make a first down in spring practice or in 2 days. We had our struggles, and we had the pieces, but it turned out our defense was so darn good, and we, as team matured, our offense matured, and I think he kind of had the coming out game about the 4th or 5th game. Played good, made some plays, but about the 5th or 6th game against Georgia, he really came on to be the kind of quarterback we needed to win the national championship.
Fast forward to 1998 SEC Championship weekend. Do you ever send your former quarterback, Brandon Stewart, a gift basket for beating Kansas State?
We have talked about that. Brandon and I actually did some time back, and we were very appreciative of his efforts to beat Kansas State to put us in the national championship.
Between UCLA, Kansas State, Florida State, was there a team that concerned you of that group? Oh my God, if we got to face that team?
Probably Florida State.
The one you did, okay.
We were in practice all the way to getting to Tempe, and we were still trying to figure out what couple runs we might be able to run if we allowed those safeties to stay in there like they did. The point was we couldn't allow them to sit in there like that and play man-to-man the whole time and stop the run. So we hit a couple, made them back up, and then we were able to get some balance in it. Good question.
These are all diehard Vol fans.
Yeah.
0-1 SEC Championship. I'm sure you look back as a missed opportunity, but what did you tell your guys to pick things up and come back and beat Michigan?
Yeah, well, Michigan kind of probably didn't help themselves because I think they were a little bit cocky around the community, and our players had enough. And they could. I mean, we were a really, really good team that deserved to be someplace. Not that Citrus Bowl wasn't great, but it was a great football team that we. I mean, you're talking about a lost opportunity. That was the toughest one I had. Losing to LSU after already beating them. We would have played, I think, Miami at the Rose Bowl, which would have been unbelievable for us. But Jason Witten had a great game against Michigan. We had a great game. I think we showed our wares in that game as well.
Is that weird to see Witten over at Oklahoma? I mean, I guess it's weird for Oklahoma to have Heupel over Tennessee, but I guess the trade's complete now. They get Witten and you guys get Heupel.
Yeah, that's a great hire by Venable to hire Jason. He'll be a head coach sometime soon, I'm sure. We're working on getting his son to Tennessee, so it's all working out there.
Saturday, September 26th, later this year, the Arch Manning-led Texas Longhorns will come to Neyland Stadium. How weird is that?
Will that be great?
It's going to be weird, though, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it'll be weird. I guess they've all did their thing that they had to do. They felt like, with Eli and Peyton, and I hope we don't give him too nice of a welcome,
Right.
you know. But it'll be a great show.
Yeah, it's gonna be weird seeing Uncle Peyton wearing all the Vol gear. And hope we beat your butt tonight, nephew. You know.
Yeah, we love you, but we hope we win.
Take out the national championship game. What's your favorite win of all time?
The 0-1 game against Florida would have to be in that group. What it should have meant, you know, to us going on and winning the conference, and that was a huge game. The Arkansas game with the Sterner fumble was crucial. That year playing Syracuse was a great win for us there. And you know, you can go back to any of the Florida or Alabama wins. You know, you got to put those up as a big win.
Yeah, times two.
Yeah, times two.
Great stuff there. I really enjoyed that conversation. Always great to hear from Coach. That was the Tennessee coach of my childhood, obviously, not Caleb Jarreau's childhood. That must have been, probably Derek Dooley, Butch Jones maybe. He's significantly younger than the rest of us, but that was the coach of my childhood, obviously a former player, offensive line coach, offensive coordinator, and did some fantastic things here at Tennessee. We talked about what Josh Heupel's accomplished. We put everything into context the other day on the 5-year anniversary of him being hired as Tennessee's coach, and we kept going back. This is the first time since Fulmer. Obviously, don't have to tell you guys about that. We lived it, but awesome stuff hearing again on an array of topics. They covered a lot of ground, so that was really cool to hear from Phillip Fulmer. Remember, the grandfather to Tennessee commit linebacker JP Peace in the class of 2027. Later today, the plan is to have a Locked On crossover with Zach Blackerby of Locked On Auburn. Going to talk a little Stephen Pearl. A lot of people still love Bruce Pearl. Okay, nobody likes Stephen Pearl. So we'll talk Tennessee, Auburn, preview that matchup at the Food City Center coming up tomorrow. That is scheduled for later this afternoon, so come back in and dial into that. Appreciate you guys as always being here. Another week is in the books. This is Locked On Vols. Another winter storm coming in this area. Stay safe, stay warm. This is Locked On Vols.